And then I took it and I didn't feel anything. So like an hour later, I was like, oh, I'll like have another 2 because these aren't working. And then I was like, okay, showtime. And I'm like nervous still, but I'm ready. And like I remember right as they said my name, they were like, everybody, welcome to the stage, Andy Haynes. It was like I was just like, I was just like, fuck.
The show must go on. Even if the show goes wrong, the show must go wrong.
So if we could just start with you giving a little introduction of yourself.
I'm Andy Haynes. I'm a comedian from Seattle originally. I live in New York. I've lived there I've lived between LA and New York the last 20 years. And yeah, I'm doing a gig in Europe. I'm doing like my annual attempt to break into Europe.
Yeah.
But really just an excuse to go see Europe and lose money. But yeah, I'm a dad. I'm a comedian. I'm a writer. I do a lot of other stuff just to get by.
Yeah. So it's for me, it's fun to get to talk to someone like you who's, when did you start comedy?
About 21 years ago. I started when I was 22.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And in Bellingham or Seattle?
I was in Bellingham, but I went to Seattle to do it. I would drive like 90 miles south to do this open mic. And the open mic was on Sundays, but there was another one. It was like back-to-back days, Sundays and Mondays, and you got 3 minutes. And so I set up my schedule so that I could do Sunday night, spend the night, do Monday night. I would drive after Monday night show back to go to school. And then I found an open mic on Wednesdays in Vancouver. So then I would drive the other way on Wednesdays.
Through the border every time. Yeah.
And then like years later, I went back to play my college. And these kids were all like, we started a comedy show at the open mic at the college cafe. And I was like, that didn't occur to me at all.
Yeah.
Like I could have been doing this here without all this driving.
Yeah.
But it probably stayed me from staying there longer because I definitely had that kind of like, oh, I don't want to leave college.
Yeah. Well, and also, I went to Gonzaga in Spokane, and I moved to Seattle afterwards. And Bellingham is like a place that you could, really lose yourself.
I know them. I know all the people that lost themselves there and more. It's like a very quiet life in a good way, in a really good way.
In the like hippie ideal, where it's like, but also like the grungy hippie ideal where you're like, I might be drinking myself to death, but it's beautiful,
Well, I also just know like the most boring people where they're like, I'm a physical therapist and I'm a competitive canoe racer. Like it's just like they're like an elite athlete in a sport that nobody cares about.
Yeah.
And they have a mid-sized, practice that they went to like 9 years of some kind of education for.
Yeah. So I was asking when you started because for me it's interesting. I started in earnest in 2019, and it's interesting to get to talk to somebody who's been doing it for a long time because and who also you've developed some like fan base and everything, and so it's interesting. The question of like a bad show for you must be a little bit different. Like do you still feel like you have bad shows?
Oh yeah.
What do you remember the most recent one?
Well, I would say the most recent like common thing that happens is I will get invited by locals to do something that's like an open mic or like a fun showcase show, and I will be like, oh, I'll just try some new stuff. And then I've had this like this process of writing jokes, which I'm really hoping to turn around pretty soon, which is I write a joke and then I'm like, this is the joke. And then I go and I tell it and it bombs awfully. Mm-hmm. And then I go, oh, wait, I did not write that joke. I just wrote like a premise down. I was thinking about writing a joke about this the other day, which was like, you know how bees, I don't know if you know this, a bee can build a nest, like a hive. Mm-hmm. But if you tear the hive, it doesn't know how to fix the hive.
No,
It just starts over.
Uh-huh.
I think spiders might do the same thing with webs. But either way, that's how I am with a joke. I either write the joke or I go, fuck, I don't know what I did. And I give up on that joke and then I write another joke. But anyways, that is to say, I'll go to these shows where people will be like I remember like a couple of people were like, Andy Haynes is like jumping on the show. Not that I'm not important, but they were excited. That
But in the world of comedy, like, I mean,
I've just done some stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I ate dog shit. Like it was like awkward. I was trying to tell new jokes about I'm going through a divorce, and so I was like trying to tell jokes about that, and people were just like, are you okay? Like,
Yeah.
you know, like. But I would say that the majority.
But, I guess sorry. Finish your thought.
Oh, just the majority of like my bad gigs that happen in the kind of like recent years and stuff like that is for the most part I'll be asked to do a show somewhere and I'll just say yes without really thinking about the details. Like I remember I drove to like Winchester, Virginia, which is like solid Trump kind of start to Appalachia.
Yeah.
And they didn't like me, they weren't gonna like me. They
But
didn't
were you
like
wearing
me.
the hat when you?
No, I wish I would have. I wish I would have had this. They did like it when I was misogynistic. They always love that. You know, you can find that common ground in hating women.
Yeah.
But no, I don't hate women. But
Well, it's unfortunate when they don't get that you're being
ironic.
Yeah.
That's the worst. I mean, I feel like that's like a lot of lib comics. Like, and I'll just say lib because most comics are liberals, but like comics that are like trying to kind of like critique something social is that they'll be like, oh, I'm gonna do this thing that is like a what would you call it? Like a parody or a satire of racism, a satire of misogyny, and then they'll just end up being racist and misogynistic.
And the audience just like, hell yeah, I agree.
yeah, that's the worst. That was my entire experience at the mothership. Yeah, I gave up. I had to go away because I was just like, oh, I'll become like a thing I hate if I stay here.
Yeah, like a big part of my comedy, especially like when I first started, was my parents are lesbians, so like talk about that.
Yeah.
And then you're also making jokes about like calling them gay and whatever.
Yeah.
And then sometimes here I have to say it's like. Sometimes the Eastern Europeans that are a little bit like, they're like, hell yeah. They are. That is messed up. And you're like, no, that was supposed to be ironic. But, do you feel like you process, like if you're going to some random show and you're just kind of doing your thing, does that like affect you negatively when it goes bad, or have you been doing it long enough that it kind of it just rolls off your shoulder?
It depends, definitely I take a healthy amount of SSRIs and other things to make sure that my brain chemistry is stronger than it used to be. But I think I can kind of I can kind of knock a bad set off because I'll just, there's another one coming up pretty soon. I think the most common time something sticks with me is like when I see an opportunity that I kind of like fucked up or like bomb in front of a comic I respect, or bomb a show where it's like, kind of like I was trying to, just, put my best foot forward. Like maybe it's like I've had some rough sets at comedy clubs where I'm like the 45 minutes of it. So, people paid to come out. They got a babysitter. They got parking. They bought this food. They spent like $200, $300. And then I like give them a bad show. And I do feel a certain amount of responsibility. Like I would love to be one of these guys that like, this is my act. You got to deal with it. But I'm also like a parent. So I know, I know it sucks to kind of have a bad night as a couple or something like that. But, I I'll say the only thing that really gets to me these days is like, I'll show up at a gig and it hasn't sold very well, and that's when I'll be like, fuck, you know, like I thought I was that I was famous.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I you know, bad sets they kind of roll off now.
Yeah.
There's another one around the corner.
Yeah. What? So I was listening to your episode on Pete Holmes' podcast from like way back in
Oh, yeah,
2012, just because I to be honest, I first like learned about you when you did your Don't Tell, and then I went back and like watched more of your shit, and but anyways, I was listening to that, and in it he said that you like emailed him and asked if you could like go out and work with him on the road, and that's a thing that's very different here in Europe, right? Like most of the touring comedians, there's no budget to like bring somebody on the road.
Yeah.
But I have opened for a few people here. Like there's this big Romanian comedian, and like for example, his audience doesn't love my gay mom shit.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, like, when you were, more featuring for people more, were there also some times where it was like a disconnect of the audience of the headliner versus what the style of comedy that you would do?
That still happens to me because of the internet. A lot of my friends are super famous now. They may not be like close friends, but like guys that I came up with, like are like, you know, like close to state arena acts, you know, like and they will do like a 3,000 person theater. You know, the names you all know. I kind of know everybody who's like doing that level of comedy. Those are like, that's kind of my class, which is very bizarre, I'll say, because when we were coming up, only celebrities did theaters.
Yeah, of course.
You know, like before the internet was like podcasts and social media, it was like Jim Gaffigan, Jerry Seinfeld, Ellen DeGeneres, Wanda Sykes. Those were theater comics. And now it's like I have friends who I know people that started like I watched them start comedy, and they just were so good at the internet, and
they just broke through.
And now they're doing like small theaters. But you know, I opened for Tim Dillon for about 2 years, and I opened for Normand for a couple gigs in those 2 years, and I opened for Stavros in that time. I'm trying to think if there was somebody else in there. I'm sure there was. Well, I also opened up for Ronnie and Hassan in their joint tour that they do, and it's like you know, like what we're going back to earlier, when like you make fun of something to be kind of critique it, but it comes off like you're being the thing. I fit into this like space where you know, like you're talking about calling your moms gay. It's like I'm very, very politically liberal and, you know, left, and, you know, like I want, you know, socialist revolution.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I say things I come off in a way that's not as like an organizer, you know, like I don't always use the right words. I'm not as thoughtful. And so I've even alienated the people that are like a little bit more like traditional Democrat because I'm being a little too like flippant about something, or I'm being a little too like edgy. But I would say the worst one, sorry to get like such a long-winded answer. That was like 9 different questions answered that you didn't ask.
Long-winded is perfect for a podcast.
Okay. Good. I'm just like, I'm like fitting I'm on so little sleep and so much caffeine.
Yeah.
But I was opening for Normand, and I was opening for him at the Moore in Seattle.
Oh, so was that also like a crazy moment for you? Like, I'm sure you went to shows there and stuff when you were growing up.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I mean, I think sometimes, I'll be honest, like I forget to appreciate certain things. Like I'll go like, and I'll open for somebody at like one of these big theaters, especially in Seattle, if I'm back home, and I'll be like, what do I got to do to open up this big theater? And it's like a totally like petty, you know, but it's like my hometown. Like I moved away. I'm still playing the clubs. But everybody was so Mark is a brilliant joke writer and, you know, like good guy, but his audience is much more broier than he is in a way. 'Cause he does Rogan a lot.
Yeah.
And, like,
and it's a little bit more, it's like zinging, roasty, which I think also is like,
it's kind of, it's like kind of a new thing. 'Cause like he has great jokes, but they want him to just like I think one of the biggest parts of the show was that he had them yell out something, and he would just yell like kind of a quick roast about it. So it'd be like trans people, Asians, whatever it was,
Yeah.
you know, Trump. And he had kind of a one-liner for each of those. But when I was on stage, you know, I'm pretty like, I'm a pretty left guy, and my jokes are like a lot of making fun of conservatives or making fun of something. Masculinity is a big thing that I try to make fun of. And, you know, nobody at that gig was from Seattle. They were all from the suburbs.
Yeah.
And I remember I yelled, "Who's from Seattle?" And it was like silence. 3,000 or 2,000 people, whatever it was, just nothing. And I was like, "Oh, cool." And then I was like, "Who's from Mukilteo?" And they were like, "Woo!" "Who's from Snohomish?" "Woo!" "Who's from Puyallup?" "Woo!" These are all names of Native Americans that we massacred. That are
I
now
knew them
towns.
as light rail stops, but
Yep,
yeah.
that as well. That as well. We honored them after spreading contagious diseases by giving them subways. But yeah, you know, they were like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And also, like, you know, when I opened for Tim, I would tend to do pretty well because Tim definitely has a conservative, or at least like not conservative, but like we're sick of this woke shit. you know?
Yeah. Well, I feel like is that kind of interesting nexus that is happening in comedy where it's like the kind of partially right wing, partially progressive, and there's like overlap.
Yeah, you know, it's like I think there's like a certain amount of like what is it? Not politics, but like I guess idealism is a circle. Mm-hmm. And you start down here as a centrist, and you go left and right, and so this is Democrat, traditional Republican, and then maybe you go like Bernie and Trump, you know, and then if you go farther, you eventually start touching again.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And then nobody's taking vaccines.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody's taking up here is like diseased.
Yeah.
And you find people that love reggae music but are racist. It's a weird combo.
That's a weird thing for me because like I grew up in the Bay Area, like
Okay.
North Bay, and like super hippie. And the no vaccine thing, that was like our thing.
Our thing,
That was like, we were like, fuck pharma, you know?
Yeah.
And then I was like, whoa, when did this become right? But anyways, so
Where are you from? Are you from Marin or Sevastopol?
Yeah,
or?
Marin, like West Marin, basically.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I love it up there, man.
Yeah, it's the best. So you're at like this gig at the Moore Theater. You're opening for Norman, and you're not like connecting with them. What does that feel like? You know what I mean? Like, are you? Do you start to get like hot, or are you just like, oh shit, like they're not into what I'm doing? Let's see, I've got 7 more minutes to get through, and then I'll get out of here.
I would say that it's like a feeling of kind of like it's almost like, what would I say? Something bad is happening and you're trying to stop it in the moment.
Yeah.
I think any bomb is kind of similar in that sense where you're like, oh, this is not going how I want it to. How do I change it? But also, I can't let you know that I know.
Yeah.
You know? And so you're trying to like kind of like do the math in motion while also still speaking, which is kind of a difficult, you know, sometimes, and I don't always think this is a great idea, but sometimes I'll be like, you guys hated that, you know, or like, well, that really ate shit. And then I'll do maybe some crowd work or something to kind of like reset, or maybe I'll make fun of them. Like, I think I did that with that gig where I kind of started going like, you fucking rednecks. You're like, why the fuck did you come to Seattle? You could have waited till this came to the suburbs.
Yeah, this would have been at one of the casinos eventually.
Yeah, we could have all done this in Snoqualmie, another tribe. But yeah, I think it's almost that feeling of like, I used to ski a lot, and there would be this feeling where you would go and you would try to ski something, and you would get kind of like halfway down, and you'd realize you didn't want to go down anymore, but you couldn't hike out. And so you're kind of just like, okay, now what do I do? Like, am I going to like point this chute and risk certain death? Or am I going to like tuck tail and run, which will be awkward. But yeah, you know, I think I've done it long enough that I'm pretty good at pivoting, especially if it's my show.
Yeah.
Like I feel that's a little different when you're doing 15 minutes in front of a big audience that paid to see a guest who's going to deliver exactly what they want.
Mm-hmm.
They're fans of what this person. Like I did Ronnie and Hassan's show. I was in Atlanta, and I was just opening for 15 minutes, and they gave me no notes whatsoever. But I had a joke about going down on my wife at the time, and they were kind of like all Indian or Asian, for one for each side. They were either Ronnie's fans or Hassan's fans, and there's a mix of other people. But a lot of like, especially on the Indian side, a lot of like families come to see Hassan.
Yeah.
So like parents with their adult children, or not little kids, but just like, and these guys are not like careful, but it was just that type of thing where it was like I was talking about, and I like look down and I see all these people that are like, you don't talk about that. That's not we don't talk about that.
My mother's here.
Yeah. What are you doing? This is like a good time. It's Sunday afternoon. What the fuck's wrong with you? So that's like an example of like, those are like, I'm not even pissing off the conservatives at that point. I'm pissing off the people that vote like me, but it's because I'm being too crass rather than being too much of a pussy.
Now, when you notice that in the moment, do you bail on the bit, or do you when you start a bit, do you feel like, all right, I gotta finish this?
I rarely bail on a bit unless somebody yells something, or like, and even if it's not heckling really, if it's just like somebody like trying to be funny in a way that's like, because I rarely get a heckle that's like, don't finish that joke, or like you suck or whatever. Like I rarely get that. I used to get that because I used to tell much edgier stuff, thinking, this. I don't know. I think it's a young comic kind of thing, or you double down and you make it your thing. But I don't really like the feeling of super edgy material on that like recovery between you and the audience.
Well, it's also something I've noticed is it's like, for myself, is that if I think people perceive me as sweet, especially because I'm talking about like, oh, my mom's and my little like gay childhood. And so then if I make some more like edgier, darker joke, they're like, where is this coming from?
Yeah, who's this
We
guy?
thought you were sweet. Like,
yeah, I think that's a thing that I had happen a lot when I started, which is that I would have jokes that would be very like friendly and ebullient and kind of like about like a topic everybody could relate to, and then I would tell like a really dark kind of like just a joke that was bad, like a young comic telling a joke that's like about dead babies or something awful, like, you know what I mean? Like, and that was like, it was jarring for them, because I think, the psychology of comedy, there's like a few different things. It's like, first of all, they want to like you, they want to be there with you, they want to like know who you are, that's like a big thing. Like there's comics that do really well quick because they have a very realized version of like who they are in their jokes, right? Like I am telling my story whatsoever. Yeah. And that really resonates with an audience. I think that they can feel honesty and sincerity and genuineness. But as a young comic, a lot of times you have like 75% of that, and then you have 25% that is like abysmal. You're just like writing into, and sometimes I'll even tell those jokes where I'll write a joke and then I'll be like, oh, I don't want to tell this joke. This is awful. Like, so it's that, it's that give and take,
Well, it's interesting because I started later in terms of comedy, where it's like I was 29, and I think about that sometimes as like, as a 29-year-old, I was still just kind of, I feel like, just realizing who I was as a person. Yeah. And I can't imagine if I had started when I was 22, that was such a different version of myself. So it's like, how would have I found my voice if I didn't even know who I was,
Yeah, I mean, it was really bizarre because I wasn't like a huge comedy fan. I mean, I liked comedy, but I didn't know stand-up. I mean, I'd seen Chappelle and a few other guys,
Yeah, do you remember like with the first special that like you saw that really had an impact on you?
It's kind of very like cringe white guy comic, but it was Hicks. I was in Bellingham. I was really into going to the video store and renting like 3 DVDs and watching them, and like 2 of them would be like horrible foreign films where there was like 3 lines of dialogue in 3 hours. I loved, that kind of. I wanted to go to film school. And then I'd also been a summer camp counselor. And so for summer camp, I'd gotten really into like going on stage and entertaining the kids with either skits or just like telling stories or whatever like that. And so I kind of left my last year as a summer camp counselor going like, oh, I kind of want to do something like performance. I don't know what it is. Me and my friends were like joking about doing like kind of like parody songs, just like we were kind of like messing around with different ideas. And then I watched the Hicks DVD, and this is like 2004, so Iraq War, George W. Bush, and Hicks.
You mean the good old days?
Yeah, back when things made sense. But the Hicks DVD was about George H.W. Bush, and Iraq One. And so he was like talking about these things, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like I was also considered myself like I wasn't a good leftist or anything. I hated organizing. I hated actually doing the hard work of it, but I like believed in the stuff. So all of a sudden, it was like, "Oh, this guy's talking about Iraq. He's talking about Bush. It's funny. It looks fun." And that was the decision right there. I was like, "Okay, I got to find an open mic," and so I like Googled open mic. I don't even know if we had Google that well then, but I looked in The Stranger or something, and I found the open mic at Giggles, which is now Laughs in Seattle. And I went to the open mic, and everybody was really bad. And thank God. Because I was like, oh, they're bad. Like, I can be bad.
Yeah.
I'm already bad at lots of stuff, So I just was like, cool. Yeah. I'll like, and I came back down the next weekend. I actually went to the Comedy Underground, and I just never looked back. It was just like, I did it for every chance I could do it until here I am. I like to say, I'm 43 and I'm worth a negative Hyundai Elantra. So, yeah.
So good career.
Yeah. Pretty normal, I think.
You said something else that was interesting to me in the Pete Holmes thing, because you were talking about like you were like kind of crazy when you were in middle schooler, right? And then you were like, if my parents had like put me into sports or whatever, and there had been more, you were like, I think you said you do well with like structure.
Yeah.
And that was so interesting to me, because I think that's like one of the biggest challenges for me about comedy is there's like no structure. There's no like, so you do this thing and then that thing and then that should work out or whatever. So I was just wondering, so you feel like you do well with structure, and how has that been a challenge for you then doing comedy, which is such a structureless career?
I just have to it's taken a long time. So also I'll say, like, when I started, I was like a huge stoner, which no judgment. I think weed is a great feeling and stuff like that. But I was like, I'm an alcoholic. So the second I stopped drinking and then it was just pot, I treated that like a I made it look like heroin. But so my first 10 years of comedy, I was stoned pretty much the whole time. And then I stopped and I kind of had to start over. And I think that was kind of where I started to kind of go like, oh, okay, I need to like treat this like a job. And that took me a long time to get that. And I think now it's like kind of annoying because like I'll like see something online that's like some like bro, what are they called? Like efficiency kind of guy.
Oh, yeah.
And he'll be like, this is how you structure your day. And I'm like, that's how I structure my day. Like I'll like save the reel or whatever. But it's really just, I have to commit to a few things in my day that will make it have a shape. And then the rest of it kind of works itself out. Like, in the summers in New York, I'll go running. And then I'll go to a coffee shop and I'll write for an hour or two. And then I've kind of gotten my two most important things done for the day. I've exercised, and then I've done some joke writing, and then I'll get to emails later, or if I'm working on a writing project, I'll do that later, and then I can kind of just go hang out with my kid.
Yeah.
I can just kind of like.
So you build the structure.
Yeah, but it's like I'd say that most of the time it works like I have to like write it down.
Yeah.
Like the day before kind of thing. Or if I'm not traveling a bunch, like, I was in New York for most of the summer. I just woke up every day, I ran, and then went to a coffee shop and wrote. And then the rest of the day was like, okay, what do I have to do?
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot easier to do that. I meditate too. That helps. Just to have little like, kind of like fence posts throughout the day to kind of like give it a little structure is what I need. I'm still awful at like preparing for a show. I literally like I write and I'm like, oh, I like this joke, I'm trying this joke's great, and then I'm like spending my day, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I gotta go on stage in 15 minutes, what am I gonna do?
So you don't like, do you do like tonight you're doing a show here in Berlin, you haven't written like a set list, or are you and last night I think you were in Rotterdam, or
last night I took the overnight train, so the night before Sunday I was in Rotterdam.
Sunday you were in Rotterdam, and so is the show that you're doing tonight going to be similar to the show you did in Rotterdam?
Yeah, I mean, I think like 75% of every show when I'm headlining, at least when I come through your town for that period of time, 75% of that show is going to be the same as the night before, or like 65%,
yeah.
I don't know, something in that area is going to be the same. And then I'm going to do some crowd work, and I'm going to riff, and I'm going to talk about your city, and that will make up the difference. But yeah, I kind of like, I'm also not really like, I don't really do a lot of like, okay, this hour is done, like I've put this to tape, this hour is done, I don't tell these jokes anymore. Because I don't really, I don't have like a Netflix special. I did a special a couple years ago, but it was literally like we just set up cameras on a whim at the punchline, and then those were, and then also, we have so many of these sets now where it's like you do 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But I
Well, that was also interesting to me because I watched your Comedy Central Presents, the half hour in 2013, and then I went back and rewatched your Don't Tell, and you have one joke in there about like I look like all the presidents, and so the first one, Obama was in office, like, except for the one in office, and then the Don't Tell, you had like it had evolved, it had like gotten a little bit longer. You're like, well, except for one, and then. So that was kind of interesting to me because that's something I'm always anxious about. Is I'm like I kind of always have the same intro joke about to get into the fact that I have gay moms, and I'm like, well, how long can I keep doing this joke?
Yeah, I mean, I have that. I think I've kind of stopped telling that joke just because it's like on so much tape now. But I did notice like a big switch when I started doing it every time I got on stage, because I would watch Mateo Lane. I would watch him go up. I think he's going to be here this weekend or something.
Next week, yeah.
But I would watch him, and then every time I got on stage, he'd go, "I'm gay, obviously. Look, move on." And it got this big pop, and it was just like a great, like, okay, like we're here, like it's like a kind of like clean the table. We're here. You know who I am. You know what I'm about. And so I wanted something like that, and I do think that that's a good way to do like an intro when you don't have like a huge fan base and they don't know what they're walking into. Obviously, when you're big and like 2,000 people are buying tickets to see you, that's a different story. You don't need to do that. You can kind of, sometimes they want it, sometimes they're like, say the thing, but I think that's what that was. But I didn't even realize it back in, I mean, I was stoned for that Comedy Central Presents. I was like, I'm not going to smoke today. I'm not going to smoke today. This is a big deal. And then I was like, I should get like little edibles. Like I should get like, this is before edibles were kind of like professional. And,
well, 2013, it was still just medical, I think, right?
Yeah. And California had a lot of like, you'd go to a dispensary and it would be like goldfish, gummy bears, but with no dosage.
Yeah.
I don't even know how they got there. and the goldfish, like I was like, I'll eat one goldfish just to take the edge off because I'm pretty nervous.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna like take Xanax. And then I took it and I didn't feel anything. So like an hour later, I was like, oh, I'll like have another 2 because these aren't working. And then I was like, okay, showtime. And I'm like nervous still, but I'm ready. And like I remember right as they said my name, they were like, everybody, welcome to the stage, Andy. It was like I was just like,
Oh, no.
I was just like, fuck. And luckily it went pretty well. I mean, there was points of that show where, like I think when we were talking about bombing earlier, and when it's going bad, there's something when you're stoned where you can make that feeling, you can kind of create that feeling out of nowhere. Where you're like,
well, your mouth is already dry, which is what it does
Yeah.
when you're bombing. Like,
yeah. Yeah, it's kind of the same kind of like physical effects of bombing. But yeah, and you're already in your head. That's another thing. So I just remember being like that whole time being like, keep it together, man. Keep it together, man. Keep it together, man. Yeah, but I think that's also like something that just kind of happens when you're bombing. It's almost the similar thing. You're just in your head, and there's kind of like like an unspoken but like understood feeling of like something's not kind of landing here. This kind of isn't quite right.
Yeah. Well, I feel like for me, one thing I've noticed is like when the inner monologue is on, then it's like, oh, this is not going well. Like it's like if I'm thinking too much somehow, then I can tell I'm like, well, I'm not like connecting right now.
Yeah, I would say that's like kind of that's like the hallmark of a good show for me. Hallmark of a good show for me is like, oh, I didn't like I was like not thinking at all when I was on stage. I was just present.
Yeah.
And I was just having fun, That's kind of like, and then like sometimes I'll look back and I'll be like, oh, that wasn't a very good set. But I'll be like, because I'll like watch the tape, but I'll be like, I was having a blast. I don't know what's wrong with these people. Yeah.
Well, so I also wanted to ask about the Comedy Central Presents thing, because it's like another thing I'm interested in is like, so I've been doing comedy for 6 years now, and I think one thing that's hard for me is it's just like you're always kind of looking at like what's the next thing I can achieve. At first it was like, how can I get in the 2 clubs here? All right, now I'm doing that. How can I headline? Okay, now I gotta, and then also I have this anxiety because I'm doing it over here in Europe for like second language speakers. I'm like, does this even count? Like I had a good show, but does that count? And I guess it was 2 years ago, I got into the San Francisco comedy competition.
Yeah.
And that felt like this big thing for me. Like, oh my gosh, like, man, this is huge.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested in these moments where you feel like, oh, this is going to really change something, and then it doesn't. And the moments where you didn't think it was going to be anything, but that was actually impactful. So I was wondering, I imagine in 2012, Comedy Central, I feel like that was still like an era where it was like, I mean, that must have felt like a huge deal when you got that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I had these like kind of blips in my career. I remember right when I stopped drinking in 2010, I got management. Was it 20? Yeah, it was 2010. I got management, Fallon, and Montreal, like all within a month of each other.
Wow.
And I was like,
here we go.
This is it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it, And I had this like great summer, and then the Fallon went great, and I remember getting off of Montreal. Didn't go perfectly. Montreal was in July, Fallon was in the first week of September, and then I remember the next day I flew to Seattle to do the Underground, and they upgraded me totally because of like my airline status, not because they'd seen the show. But I was sitting in first class, and the Hold Steady, that band?
Oh, yeah.
They like walked past me to coach, and I was like, have fun at your arena show.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I thought that was it. I was like, oh, I'm like famous. You know, the offers are gonna start coming through. I'll probably be on a sitcom, and then nothing happened for 2 years. Like nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that feeling of like being like, oof, like that kind of sucks. And then I remember within that period, there would be opportunities. You know, like I would do an audition for a show or like a comedy showcase, like or a late night set, or I would do an audition for an actual show or movie, and I'd get a call back or something, and you know, like now I'm in front of the producer, so this is it, and yeah, you start thinking about the money, you start thinking about the kind of mobility that you'll have. I mean, I really think that's like when you really talk about like what success and money would get you, it's this mobility to kind of do what you want and move how you want to. I would love to be one of those people that's like focused enough to be like, this is about the art, you know?
Yeah.
Because I know people like, you know, there's like these genuine artists in the comedy community where like, even though they're rich because of comedy, they still are like, how is my art? And I'm like, the second I get a paycheck, I'm like, I need an Arc'teryx jacket.
Yeah.
And it's like it's like a horrible kind of like part of the human condition I'm completely helpless to. But
well, there is I feel like a relevant like part of it. A relevant part of it is also the condition in which you're performing or doing the art in, right? Like, imagine the further you get, or the more successful you get, the better you can take care of yourself on the road. I mean, I know that's my big goal is like, so I tour a little bit. It's in Europe, it's all self-produced. And the goal is I'm like, I want to stop staying in hostel dormitories.
Dude, yeah.
I can get into hotels, I've made it. Like,
dude, I was on this tour currently, and it was just convenient to stay at this hostel one night. But in a private room. I wasn't going to do that to myself to stay in the dorms. But I just was like, dude, what am I doing? There's like high schoolers making out like on this like cafe area. It's like I'm like sitting next to a bunch of 20-year-olds on their like Rumspringer.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think to get back to that original question, I think one of the big things about it is I've done it so long, and actually the industry has changed so much that I really don't think I ever think about those opportunities the same way. I still get bummed if I'm up for something on a show. Like I've had a couple times where they're like, we like you for this, or we like you for this job. You know, I get a lot of like one-offy kind of things, like corporate media type stuff where they're like, will you be the man on the street for, I remember at one point I got offered a job to like write jokes for Alexa. You know, Amazon Alexa.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was like high. It was like
a lot of money.
$200,000 a year or something. It was a tech job, you know?
Yeah.
Benefits, the whole fucking thing. And they were like, they really like you, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, oh, God, like, think about it. And then it just, you know, that I think the hardest part about it is there's just no answer usually. There's just usually like a blank, you know, and you go, oh, okay, it's been 3 months. They probably aren't going to call me back. It's being ghosted by every single professional opportunity. But like the thing about it now is it's like you're kind of only as big as your like most recent clip now. You know, it's like the internet has changed everything. And so it's like consistently showing people who you are, and like through that process, kind of like building up a fan base, also getting better at what you do. Like the internet's evil. Like it's like we all know that the internet's fucking evil, and what it's doing to our brains is like fucking toxic. And like there's so many different studies about like this is a really bad thing that happened to us, the iPhone. But it's the reality we live in, and so you just have to approach it with integrity. And you can, and we know people who make really good art, and they put it on Reels or they put it on whatever YouTube, and maybe it's not even art, but they're really funny, you know, consistently funny, and there's dividends to that. Like, I don't want to like care about the algorithm. I don't want to care about like how like I get so annoyed when I have a clip that I like and I go like, oh, that's such a, I love this joke. It's going to do really great. And then it bombs. And then some guy who knows internet comes to me and he's like, yeah, man, you just didn't have like a hook. You need like in the first 3 seconds, you need a hook. That's the first swipe, you know, and you're just like, ugh, I fucking hate this. This sucks. Like, this is not why I got into comedy. But it's also like, it gives you a lot of control because like for everybody, we used to have to go through like 4 people. You know what I mean? And I know a lot of guys who, you know, classically, they would have gotten ignored or they would have gotten overlooked or whatever, you know, it just would have not been as easy for them. And now they're doing great. And it's because they have control of everything and they just approach that like a job. And I hate that that's the reality we live in. And I respect the people that are able to, like, I think Europe is actually a little bit better about like being able to market yourself without having to be a complete slave to the algorithm. But it's kind of the job now.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because it's like, I feel like maybe I'm wrong about this, but your class was like the tail end of this generation where like the system was still like, okay, you take a bunch of terrible feature work where you lose money because hopefully that club owner will like you and book you to headline. Yes. And then maybe this TV credit will move a few tickets and that's how you build a career. And I will say it's like what I don't like is that from this time I started, it was like, well, you got to be posting your shit online and like,
yeah.
I guess what I would say is like from the beginning I was like, oh, you have to build something. And I mean, some of that is like, oh, I posted stuff that I'm like, why? I was like a year into comedy.
Yeah.
I mean, even now I'm 6 years into comedy and I'm posting shit and I'm like, well, this is probably, I'm not going to love.
Well, I'm 21 years into comedy and sometimes I have like a team of social guys who they're friends. They're not like a company. Well, they are a company now, but they're like my friends. And so we kind of all collaborate. But sometimes they'll be like, there's this trend on TikTok right now. And, you know, you'll catch me with like a banana milk standing in front of like a green screen being like, me loves it, you know, like, and it's just like, and then they put it up and I go, what the fuck was I thinking? You know, the worst part about it is sometimes you sell out now. You sell out and you're like, fuck, I'm selling out, but whatever, it'll pay off. And then it bombs. And you're like, oh, I sold out for nothing. But I think the hardest part about that is that people are now writing for the clip.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like somebody doing an hour of comedy it does not seem to be as special as it once was. There's some really great hours. There's some people that approach it with the same integrity that they always would have. The older guys still do that. They do these big kind of, but you know, like there's really good comics also who put out 20 minutes like every 2 months. And I mean, fucking Josh Johnson's putting out an hour every week. And it's kind of like, oh, is this, you know, like, I do think one negative thing about this like podcasting is there's a lot of people that just want constant kind of like this. And it's not really like, there's not that like, oh, I haven't seen them tell jokes for a year. Now I get to watch them tell jokes or, excuse me,
there's not a lot of mystery left.
There's not a lot of mystery. There's not a lot of like separation. And also, I mean, I hate to say it because I'm not really like, I don't have this speed that a lot of guys have, but those guys that are like really big podcasters and stuff like that, like sometimes I watch the clip that's got like fucking 10 million, views. And it's like literally because like one guy was like, you ever watch the Brady Bunch? And the guy's like, you mean the Gady Bunch? And it's like literally like 30,000 fucking likes. And you're just like, and people are like, do you like, I'll watch Comedy Nerds. They'll be like, did you see how he fucking, dude, this guy's epic. And you're like, that's what you fucking wanted, you know? Like, that sucks.
Yeah. But don't you think that that's just like,
I mean, it's the same thing. It's Dane Cook
Yeah,
for
or
today.
even just like I loved AM radio when I was a kid,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And it's like I also just think I'm like, oh, we're all just doing AM radio. Like it's just
Yeah, to some extent. But I also think there's this, because of the way people find out about comics, they find out about them mainly through the internet or big podcasts or podcasts, whatever in general. And there's kind of like I don't think I'm like a great podcaster. I have a podcast. I've had podcasts for almost a decade now.
Mm-hmm.
But like I'm not like one of these guys. Like I'm good at like being thoughtful, and I like to like be sincere. Earnestness is like one of my biggest enemies, because it's like people don't give a shit about earnest. They want like fucking like Sam Talent is like great at just being like blah blah blah, and it's like great jokes, and he's being himself. I'm kind of a snooze, and but why I say that is because people find you on, like, I do Ari Shafir's podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's like a big podcast that I've done in the last year, this You Be Trippin' podcast, and people hated me. People hated me on the Soder podcast. They hated me because I'm not like pow 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 pow. They're like, this guy sucks. But it's because I'm not good at that. I'm good at telling jokes, and that's how they equate it now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this guy, I remember, this is kind of like bad gig adjacent, because our gigs are kind of the internet now. This guy, like, I wrote like some kind of liberal joke, and he got mad about it, and so I engaged him, and I was like, I go, okay, whatever, and I'm making fun of whatever's in his profile picture. And then he writes me, and he goes, dude, I can't believe you wrote me. Like, I thought you were so much more successful than this. Like, how pathetic are you that you replied to me? And I was like, fuck, like, whatever, dude. And I said something else. And then he literally goes, you're the only person that's ever made the Soder podcast unfunny. And that was one of those things, like a free rent thing, where I left the podcast going like, I wasn't that good. And I thought about it when they posted it. I was like, I wasn't on that day. And then it was, like he hit me in my like Achilles heel. It was like he found the little lever where he was like, I know where you're weak. Yeah. And I was like,
I know how to hurt you.
Yeah, I think I gave up. I was just like,
which is funny because I enjoyed you on the Soder podcast. Like the whole thing about you guys talking about your dads, I thought was very interesting. And anyway, but
oh yeah, because we both have Garys.
Yeah.
No, I think that's the thing. Is it's like there's a weird space that I've been. I'm so delirious. So if I say anything that's long-winded and or dumb, I apologize. But I think that's like something you have to find your audience in this world now that we've created. And I think so much of it is like you have to find that kind of, and there's a lot of dudes that like certain kind, like they like very particular, like Normand is such a specific kind of comic. He is so good at zingers. He's the kind of guy that you want to sit next to at a bar. He's the kind of guy that you want at your bachelor party.
Yeah.
He's the kind of guy that you want on the work trip. He's just like ding, 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 ding. He's cool. He's always got sunglasses on, fucking
comedy.
Yeah, all that stuff. It's like, it's a very...
He's got catchphrases. He made catchphrases not even cheesy.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
And he's the parasocial is easy with him. You know what I mean? But I think a lot of guys, and I don't know you well enough, but like a lot of guys that are not that, like my fan base is shy. My fan base is beleaguered. My fan base is it's a lot of guys that are like I vote left, but like I also like with my friends like say the R word. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like like that kind of thing. And so it's like there's some very available kind of like they're almost like totems. You know what I mean? Like in a classic sense. They're very much obvious kind of, this is the shape of this thing.
Yeah.
We can see Normand, we can see Tim, we can see Theo, we can see Jordan, and you're like, oh, I know what this person's about. I know what it would be like to hang out with them, at least in my head. This is very defined.
Yeah.
And then I get up there and I'm like, oh God, I'm beat up today, guys. And they're kind of like, who's this guy? It
Yeah.
seems like he's doing an audit of the company. I don't want to hang out with this guy.
So I had one question that's this is kind of a random, but like I was watching your Don't Tell, and you wore shorts, and which is something I wouldn't have thought about, but I wear shorts. It gets hot here in the summer, and then I went back to do that comedy competition I was telling you about. I remember the first night I wore shorts, and this guy, very funny comedian from Dallas named Dez, he was like, damn, I didn't realize you were funny enough to wear shorts. And I did terrible that night. And I didn't wear shorts the rest of that weekend. So I didn't even realize that was like a possible like comedy faux pas to wear shorts. And I was wondering if that
I think that's a result of the Berlin scene. Maybe.
Yeah. But like, was that like an intentional choice of like, oh, I'm going to do something a little bit different to hopefully be like more memorable, or even stoke something in the comments of like, I can't believe this guy's wearing shorts, or look at this guy's legs, or am I just reading way too much into it?
So I come from a school of comedy where you never wear shorts. That's like a rule. And also I come from a school of comedy where like bookers would not book you again because you wore jeans. It was like, there was definitely like, when I came up, you were supposed to dress up for gigs, or at least dress presentable. But that night I had brought an outfit. I'd like picked an outfit. I knew that this was kind of a big deal. This is when Don't Tells were still kind of like moving people.
Yeah.
Like it was off of the backs of like Ralph Barbosa and Catherine Blanford and these people that had gone from kind of like normal following to like meteoric. And I was wearing that outfit that I had on stage, and I was going to go change. And I was nervous because I really want this set to go well. And I just said, I'm just going to wear this. Like, I kind of like what I'm wearing. And it wasn't like this will be edgy thing. But I will say, like, part of me goes, like, I think there was a part of me that'll go, I'll probably stand out.
Yeah.
Like, this might be a good idea, And then,
well, I was also asking because I remember I heard Dane Cook once say in his Comedy Central Presents, he wore this like tight black, thing. And someone asked him about it. He was like, that was a choice because I was like, I know I'm going to look different than everybody else. And in that era, they play them over and over again.
Yeah.
And it made me stand out as be memorable. And so that's what made me think of when I saw you're wearing the shorts.
Yeah, I missed that era. Because I think they played mine once.
Yeah.
I think they played mine once, and then they were like, all right, you can. That was like, I think it was years before it was even on like streaming. It like lived on like the Comedy Central app, which you had to like download and set up an account and all this stuff. And people were like, I'm not fucking doing that.
You probably had to put in like a Comcast password.
Exactly.
Or some shit.
Back when you had apps that you had to like prove you had the TV for. Yeah.
Yeah. So the last thing I would ask is just if there's any like really memorable bad gigs where it could be something with the audience, or like the example I was doing a show up in Denmark last year, and halfway through the show I noticed the audience had kind of like seemed like they were like checking out, and then I turned behind me. I realized that the bar I was performing in a bar had turned on the soccer game behind me in the middle of my show. They paid tickets to come. It wasn't even like a
yeah.
So that's like an example for me. But do you have any like something that comes to mind as like a particularly like bad show from some point in your career? Maybe one that made you that stuck with you, or
I mean, oh God, there's so many that have stuck with me. It's what I think about when I can't sleep on overnight trains to Berlin. Yeah. But one time I was doing a gig in DC. This is like right when I started, and this, I kind of have a fond memory of this, but it was a bad gig. It was around the time the Tea Party existed, like when the kind of pre-MAGA movement. It was like when they kind of convinced old people that they were going to be like executed if we had socialized medicine. And I was at this hotel that did a gig on Saturdays in Bethesda, Maryland, which is just like, it's a suburb of DC. So it's right by DC. And I lived in New York at the time. And so and I've done this gig lots of times, and I get in there, and I'm like, hey, you guys seen these fucking Tea Party people? What the fuck is going? I'm the headliner.
Yeah.
And I hear kind of some murmuring, and I'm like, these fucking idiots, and I'm like going off, and then I slowly realize that they are all there staying at this hotel because they are part of the Tea Party.
Oh no. Okay.
Because Bethesda's like it's a liberal suburb. It's,
Yeah.
Most of the people that work there are like government workers. Obama's still the president at this time. So I'm not even considering it a possibility. And they start yelling at me like
How many minutes into the set are we at this? Like
7 maybe.
Oh, no.
Like I do my opening stuff, and then I'm kind of like, let's fucking shoot the shit. And they start yelling at me. They're kind of booing, and then like people in the audience that were not with them that had just paid tickets are telling them to shut the fuck up. And so then people are like arguing with each other to the point where I can't even hear myself. Like I have the microphone, and it's like
It's pandemonium.
Yeah, pandemonium. And the booker like ran up, and he was like,
We're done?
yeah, close the show. But I mean, I have so many bad shows. Me and Rory Scovel, one time we got hired by John Fox, who used to run the San Francisco comedy competition.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I think one of the nights used to be at this place. It was called the Dead Crow.
Oh yeah,
in Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
And he booked a Sunday night gig there. And back then we were like excited for any kind of like road work. Probably Rory not as much as me, but I was very excited. And Rory was headlining, and I was featuring. And when we got there, I mean, we knew before, but I don't know why it hadn't really equated to us. It was Super Bowl Sunday.
Oh no. Okay.
And we got there, and like the game was over, but people were trashed.
Yeah.
They've
been drinking all day.
Yeah, they're annihilated. And we get on stage, and we're just like, hello. And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, just drunk. Nothing. I'm telling you, like, they are giving us, they are acting like we are Muzak.
Yeah.
And I think I was the feature. I maybe did 15 minutes. And then Roy got up, and it was like to the point where eventually people started talking louder so that he would not talk. And they just called the show, like 10 minutes in, they just called the show, and that was it.
And that show in DC, what's that feeling when you see the guy coming towards the stage? Like, had that ever happened to you before, that a venue would be like,
No.
let's just not,
No. I hadn't been pulled off stage yet. I think I was probably 8 years into comedy at that point, maybe 7, 8 years. But yeah, I mean, it was like one of those things where I was just like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. And do they try not to pay you in that moment? Or
I've never not been paid. I think I've been threatened with non-payment for something, but I've never not been paid.
Yeah.
Like, I somehow have dodged that entire thing. I mean, it used to be like, comedy used to suck. Like, you'd go do these road gigs, and like, you had to be in St. Louis Wednesday, you had to be in Des Moines Friday, you had to be in fucking Fargo Saturday, and the booker in St. Louis would write you a check, and he'd be like, cash it on Monday.
Yeah.
Like that. And then you'd cash it, and it would bounce. And then you'd call the guy, and he'd be like, oh, fuck, man, I'll try to get one in the mail this week. And you know how, like, that's my, I'm never really like a week out from needing more money.
Yeah.
And, I've heard stories about guys being like, I drove back to St. Louis, and I made him go to a cash machine and give me the money because I wasn't going to do that shit.
Yeah. Oh.
That doesn't happen anymore. People just kind of zell you a week later. Europe, I have noticed, is a little more frustrating. People, besides Top Secret, everybody in Europe's like, could you please fill out this document and then invoice me? And then once you invoice me, please get it notarized. And then, and I'm just like, I'm used to like just the money.
Yeah, hand me the cash and
check at the end of the gig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess it's our tax system here, but yeah. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. This has been a blast.
So this will probably come out in like a month, I
Okay.
would say. Obviously, I'll link to anything you want in the description of the episode, but anything you want to promote as we go out here?
If you're in New York, I'm taping a special at the end of May at the Bell House. I got some road work coming up that's kind of just all over. I don't really like, I'll do a Europe tour, but the rest of the time I'm just on tour. So it's not like this name tour. I am constantly on the road. So come see me in a city
go
near
to
you.
andyhaynes.com.
Yeah.
andyhaynes.com. Check out the...
I think it's I'mAndyHaynes.com because I think this visual artist took AndyHaynes.com.
Oh, okay. I'm andyhaynes.com. The link will be below. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, man.
This was
Thanks for having me.
Show must go on. Even if the show goes wrong, the show must go wrong.